So this is for Evie. So this is how you make homemade apple pie. Now it's kind of not the same way as the experts make it because they don't use fresh apples. But this is the way I make it and it turns out just fine. So I've heated my oven to 350. So it's getting up to temperature. So now we're going to do some apples, and I like to mix my apples. So I have some Granny Smith apples, and I got about 3 of those. You getting a shot of my apples?
I am not.
And then I have Golden Delicious apples. I have about 3 of those. And then I have a whole bunch of Macintosh apples that I'll be using to fill in for the rest of my apple pie. And no Bloody Mary for you, Evie. Okay, so this is, I'm gonna do the Granny Smiths first, and then I'll do the Golden Delicious, and then I'll do the Macintosh. And that was just the beep of the oven to let me know that that's ready to go. So, is this gonna be okay?
No, it will not.
Huh?
It will not, no.
So I gotta lift this up, unlock this. So back in the old days, when I was a youngster, I had to, did you lock this back up for
Yes,
me?
ma'am.
Thanks. I had to manually peel apples and slice them. Nowadays, they have new technology, so I don't have to do that as much. So just gotta put the apple on, and then I gotta get this guy kind of centered up there, right? And then turn this on, and then it should go, right? So, way nicer than the old days of having to do this manually. So, we're gonna do all these apples. Put this on there. So now I have all the apples peeled and sliced, or not sliced, but peeled, well, somewhat sliced. I'm gonna do one more step here. I'm gonna slice them one more way so that they're sliced like so. And then make sure there's no seeds in them. Kind of clean that out. And put them in here. So, go through. Okay, so I got everything sliced up into slices, and I'm mixing the bowl up a little bit. Oh, I see I got a couple, that's why I was mixing it up. Take that out of there. That should be, oh, we got a couple more stragglers. So everything should be in half pieces, right? So I think I got everything. So I'm mixing up all the different variety of apples in there too. So, and people don't want to eat skin, so I'm gonna take the skin out. That looks pretty good. Pretty good. All right. So here's the next step. I'm gonna add some cinnamon. So I'm not a measurer. I don't measure things. So just put a bunch of cinnamon in there, and then sugar. So So kind of what I'm doing is creating a brine, so to speak. And so I'll just dump a bunch of sugar and a bunch of cinnamon in there. And then I'll take a spoon and I will mix this up like so. So I see a little, another seed, pick that up. All right, so get that to sit in there. Get all the cinnamon mixed around. Cinnamon and sugar. And now I'm gonna let this sit in this mixture because the sugar is gonna pull all the juice out of the apples. And so now with the cinnamon in there and the sugar, this is gonna create a little bit of a slurry. And so I'm going to let this soak up a little bit. So about a half an hour, 45 minutes. Then I'm going to dump this into my pie crust. So I have a deep dish pie crust. Any deep dish pie crust will work. Don't get a regular pie crust because it's too shallow. So a deep dish, because there's a lot of apples in here and they gotta get in there and then we're gonna pile them up. So you will see how we're going to do that after this sits for a little bit. So we'll be back in about 45 minutes to do the next step. Okay. So when I talk about the next step, while the apples are sitting in their little bath of cinnamon and sugar, I'm gonna make the crumble crust that's gonna go on the top of this. So what I'm gonna use is flour and brown sugar. So I'm going to use equal parts. So I'm going to take a cup of brown sugar, and this little clay guy just keeps the moisture from making it stick. So just pack in a cup of brown sugar, like so. Set that off to the side. And then cup of flour. And I'm not one of those crazy bakers. I don't sift things. I just kind of go with easy. Okay, so that's my crumble that I'm going to use. Then I'm going to take a fork, and usually I give this to my husband while he's watching football. And while he's sitting there watching football, I give him a bowl and a fork, and I have him mix this together. So it just takes a little bit to do. Gotta get all those little balls cut down. So this is gonna be my topping with butter. So once I get this all done, I'll have all the parts and pieces to make the pie. That's very simple. It's just very time consuming. It takes a long time to do the apples, cut the apples up, let them sit, and then, get the crumble going. And then the pie has to bake for an hour. So, it's just a long process. Really easy to do, just a long process. All right. So, this looks pretty mixed up. And I'll fine tune it when I pour it on there. But we'll wait for the apples to get done. And then we're going to be ready to go for the assembly part. Stay tuned. All right. So now I have my nifty little pie plate. I'm going to put my deep dish pie crust in the center. So now I have my apples, and I'll just mix them up one more time. And they look pretty yummy, actually. So now I will just get these. I wash my hands, so we're gonna get these all in here. That's the trick, is to get them in here. There's quite a few. Probably get a good portion of them. The reason why I pile them up so high is because they'll reduce over from baking and then sitting. So I don't like to get that, you want to keep that juice out of there and keep it as dry as possible. But I want to build this pie up. I only got a few apples left in here, so let's see what it can get piled up. I don't want that guy in there, so take him out. So I want to try and get as many in there as possible, because everybody likes apples in their apple pie. So get it in there nice and high. That looks pretty good. Put some more over here. So this is the messy part. I only got a few apples left. I'll set that off to the side. Not overly concerned about that at this point. So now I have lots of apples in my apple pie. And this is tricky. This is the tricky part. It gets messy here. I got some butter, and so I'll cut some butter up. So I got butter in here, and you can do it in there. Throw some pieces in there. Again, I'm not no professional. This is just a old woman that makes homemade apple pie, and a lot of people just really like my old-fashioned apple pie. And since Evie tried to make it and my instructions were not very clear for her, I thought this would be best to just videotape me making some apple pie. Okay, so now we're gonna try and get this on here. So I take a fork because it has slots, and the slots can help with distribution of the crumble. So I don't worry about making too much of a mess. I got a couple pieces of butter. So I'm just gonna go around this whole apple pie and just fill this in. That's gonna take me a little bit to do this. Okay, so now I've pretty much got that whole bowl of stuff in here, and I'm just gonna try and throw some butter on here as best I can. Okay. Could be a little slippery, see? All right. And then I'm gonna put her in the oven. Now it's the oven time. All right. So then I'm gonna put the timer on 60 minutes. So 1 hour. Press start. All right. At 350. Right? Okay. So our timer went off. We are done. I can press the timer and open it up. Got my elk gloves on. Bring it out. Just set it on the stove. All that good. So now I'll just let this cool for the afternoon. When we come back, this will deflate and it'll be a little bit flatter. It won't be as tall, and that's it. That's my homemade apple pie.